Welcome to Leading for Wellness. I'm Liesl Bernard, CEO of Kalan Executive Search. Each week, we'll dive into the journeys of visionary wellness entrepreneurs, uncovering their secrets to success. Get ready for insightful conversation that will inspire you to elevate your business and prioritize your well-being. Let's dive in. Hi, Ari. Thank you so much for joining us on the Leading for Wellness podcast today. It's such an honor to have you here. Ari Raz is a distinguished entrepreneur and executives in the natural foods industry, renowned for his leadership and innovation and contributions. Before joining Coconut Cult in 2021, he was a co-founder of Once Upon a Farm, one of the most successful baby food companies on the market right now, in conjunction with Jennifer Garner. So, Arian, I know you're also a legend in the Southern California market and act as president and founder of Naturally San Diego. So, really thrilled to have you on the podcast today to share your amazing background and story. So, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I want to start out by getting a feel for how you got into the natural food industry. You know, was it a family tradition, or what inspired you to get involved with this amazing industry?
So I was inspired to get into this industry. Really, it started with my mom. So growing up, my mom was, I call her, she was a yoga teacher before it was cool. She got her certification in the very early 90s, the White Lotus Foundation in Ojai Valley. And that experience, I think, changed her approach, not just to her physical fitness, but also her nutrition. And from that day forward, when she came home, all the packaged food was gone. She started making everything from scratch. And I grew up in a household where, I was the kid bringing, sandwiches with Ezekiel bread, sprouts, and avocado to school. And all the other kids would look at me like I was an alien. But, even though back then I kind of, wish I had Lunchables like the other kids, looking back, right, I really appreciate what that did for me today, because I think she gave me the nutrition that I needed. And I feel the benefits of it even to this day. I don't get sick very often. I'm in very good health, and I attribute so much of that to the food I ate when I was very young. And in a similar fashion, when I was getting my MBA and I was really thinking about, my career path, like what industries are most interesting to me. Food didn't come up naturally. And I was very fortunate to get an internship for a gigantic food company. And that experience sort of connected the dots for me and made me realize that, I've always been passionate about food. I've always been passionate about cooking and nutrition. And I'm also very passionate about marketing, branding, advertising, and business strategy. So this just sort of brought everything together for me. And, really was the time when I realized, like, okay, I found my home. Like, this is where I want to live in the business world. So after that internship, I decided to take a different approach. Instead of joining, a giant CPG and starting sort of at the bottom and working my way up. I thought, I'll take a note from the tech industry. It's very similar, where you have, a lot of startups that can, with very small teams, build something very unique and disruptive and outmaneuver incumbents, and then, ultimately potentially get acquired or, grow to a point where they're, sustainable. And I thought that was, very cool. If I could do something like that in food, great, I would love to, right? And thankfully, I had a lot of like inexperience and naivety on my side, because if I really knew what what I was getting into, I probably wouldn't have done it. Like if I knew too much about how difficult it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm grateful I took a shot on myself and took a chance and, leapt into it with 2 feet and, figured it out day by day. There was so much I didn't know about distribution and, just all of the nitty gritty details of what it takes to build a food company.
Yeah,
But I
absolutely.
just, fortunately was able to surround myself with good people, get good advice, and start building.
That's amazing. It's funny, you and I share a very similar sort of childhood upbringing, and I think that's led the passion for, my interest in the nutraceutical and wellness industry as well. I grew up in South Africa, and my dad was a chiropractor, and we were
Mm.
never allowed to eat sugar. Everything was homemade. We had, fresh milk from the cows every morning, and
Yep.
bread was made at home every morning. And so I resisted that a lot growing up as well. And I wasn't the cool kid with the whole grain bread going to school, and usually traded my sandwich for a white bread now and again.
Yep.
But those things stick in your psyche, and you realize later on what a huge gift it is to grow up, in an environment like that. And I love that you've followed through on the passion. I would love to hear how you founded Once Upon a Farm, because obviously that's a really well-known brand right now, and it's co-founded with Jennifer Garner, and but
Yep.
that was a huge win really early on for you.
Yeah, it was. So I basically started off on my baby food journey in Washington, D.C. Uh, I I was inspired to get into baby food in the first place by my older brother, who made all of his boys baby food from scratch, and told me this story about how when he was making homemade baby food, all of the parents that he knew in the Georgetown area at the mommy groups would ask if he could make extra for them and for their kids. So he did. So he would go to the mommy groups with mason jars of frozen baby food and he would hand them out. And he had this incredible recipe. And it was surprising to me though, why are these parents who are, they can afford the best, right? Why are they asking you to make baby food for their kids? And he said, well, have you ever seen what you can buy? Like what's accessible? And I really hadn't because I didn't have kids at the time. But when I did more research into baby food, what I realized is that, you know, it's the kind of food you could put in your emergency kit, your earthquake emergency kit.
Last forever.
It lasts forever. You don't need to refrigerate it. Very convenient, right? Especially for parents on the go. It makes a lot of sense. And then they have organic brands, and they had, you know, Plum Organic. They were using kale and quinoa and everything. I mean, recipes were fine, but the processing behind those recipes was for me the issue, and for my brother it was the issue. What they have to do to make it so that the food can survive that long without refrigeration is heat pasteurize it, basically killing all the bacteria in
Yeah,
the
it's
food.
like pasteurized milk, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's actually it's like ultra past it's I mean it's ultra pasteurized milk. It's like the shelf stable milk if you ever seen like milk in a
UHT.
box, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that level. So and then it's pasteurized in the pouch, in like a plastic pouch, right? So, can we do better? That was my question. Like, is there a way to improve that? And can you improve it at scale? Fortunately, at the time, there were brands coming out. There was a brand called Blueprint, which was a cold pressed juice brand that started to take off in New York City with these plastic bottles of uh, cold pressured. It's called HPP, cold pressured juice. So it's a different processing technology that extended the shelf life of the juice without killing the bacteria and changing the flavor. So when you open the bottle, you drink a fresh juice. Another brand here in San Diego that
Suja.
came out at the same time, exactly, doing the same thing. So those two brands were out there growing rapidly, and I took inspiration from, in particular, Suja, and I thought, man, if that works on juice, could it work on a puree, right? Fortunately, there was an entrepreneur in San Diego, Cassandra Curtis, who had a baby food company called Mother's Garden, and she had sort of cracked that code. So she had a number of pouches in Jimbos, like really cool flavors using better ingredients than anything I'd ever seen out of any baby food company, really unique recipes. And she was making this brand Mother's Garden, selling it at farmers markets and in local natural food stores. So I decided to reach out to her on her website. After multiple attempts to reach out to her, she finally got back to me and said, "Hey, I don't know who you are. I don't want to just tell you my secrets of like how I brought a cold press baby food to life, but I'm looking for a business partner. Would you be interested in talking about that?" So at the time, I had a small business in DC. I was selling homemade not homemade, but I had a commercial kitchen where we were making baby food and we were delivering it to people's homes. So it was like fresh baby food delivery, but I knew that I wanted to move to this cold pressure technology so that I could build a product that could scale. And she had already started to do that. So I was very intrigued. So we set up a Zoom call, we started talking, and before I knew it, she and I were like, I mean, 100% aligned to go all
Wow,
in
that's very
together on,
serendipitous, right?
yeah, I know. Like,
Yeah.
and it's sometimes you have to go outside of you know, your bubble. She had been going to co-founder meetups in San Diego. She had tried to find business partners. She couldn't find anybody who was willing to go all in the way she was going all in on baby food. I mean, that's not an easy thing to
Yeah.
find.
Yeah.
And there I was. I just appeared, right? The universe delivers.
That's
So
amazing.
so I moved from DC to San Diego to start this new company with her, and it originally was called Pure Joy. Uh, that was my old company. We then changed it to Once Upon a Farm after we worked with a local branding agency in San Diego called Bex Brands. They actually came up with the name Once Upon a Farm.
I love
And
it.
well, what's
It's
funny
so
is that
catchy.
it is. And originally, I was sort of anti-farm. I thought it was kind of going to be. I thought it was a little cheesy. I was like, really farm theme, like just anything themed feels like a little bit cheesy to me.
Mhm.
But the way they put the brand together was so beautiful, and it was like, that original brand guide that they built for us. It was like opening up, a beautiful illustrated storybook, and it made so much sense once I saw it come to
And it
life. So
appeals
I'm
to
so happy we
kids,
did it.
right? And moms. Yeah.
It appeals to kids, it appeals to moms. The branding has shifted over time in excellent ways. I mean, they've really modernized the look from the original. I wish I could show you
Yeah,
the
that would have
original
been
branding
fun.
versus what it looks like today. But they've done a great job shifting the look. But it's all, it's keeping the original sort of spirit of the design and the intention of that design, and they've really like just evolved it. So yeah, it's I can't tell you how important that
The branding element.
early work is
Hmm.
for a CPG company. It's like you have to have a great idea, of course, and it has to be, I mean, you have to meet a need that nothing else out there is meeting, right? So we had that for sure.
Yeah.
There was no other product like what Cassandra was making, but you also have to meet that with world-class branding. And if you're not a branding expert,
Figure out
that's
how
got
to
to
do
be
it.
one of your priorities. I mean,
Yeah.
you do see brands build with sort of mediocre branding, but after a certain point, if you want to compete with the big boys, you got to go.
Yeah.
In my opinion, you really have to upgrade that.
And the packaging is so important. We're such
Oh yeah.
visual creatures, and especially today with social media, it's got to be catchy in order to really
Well,
have
yeah.
shelves.
I mean, sorry to cut you off,
Mm,
but think about, and this is for a lot of entrepreneurs out there, think about fundraising, right? If I'm a potential investor and you come to me with your brand, and you've never, you have a great concept, right? Your idea is cool. Maybe the product even tastes good. But if you're delivering it to me in like a craft paper bag with like a sticker with something you designed on Photoshop that just looks like, maybe
yeah.
you paid somebody on Fiverr to design a logo for you. I'm gonna, I might eat the product, but I'm not going to invest in your business.
Yeah.
If you, on the other hand, if you present something that looks extraordinary, even if you don't have sales yet,
Yeah.
I might be interested in learning more, because I can like, you're helping me visualize that vision, like you're bringing that vision to life with beautiful design, with beautiful images to go with your excellent product innovation that meets that consumer need. So if you bring them both together, it the multiplier effect on what that can do for your fundraising journey is indescribable, and that, I mean, for us, like getting that branding down, getting the name Once Upon a Farm, getting the initial, even just images of those pouches, that was rocket fuel for our ability to attract really high quality investors, especially in CPG. Without that,
How did you get
would
Jennifer
never have been
Gardner
able to raise a
involved?
dime.
Because how did you get Jennifer Gardner involved? Because I think having an influencer at her, and she kind of portrays that typical mom,
Yeah,
image. You tell me about that, because I think that
she
also
is.
probably had a huge effect on the success of Once Upon a Farm.
She is, yeah, she's America's favorite mom. I
Yeah,
mean, it's hard to
yeah,
deny. She is,
yeah.
I honestly, I can count on one hand, and I would include my sisters, like how many people like Jennifer Garner exist,
Yeah.
like that
I'm a huge
level of
fan.
just
Yeah.
authenticity, good natured, just like, and
Wholesome. Yeah.
yeah, wholesome, but like really living the values, and not, and and also being very picky, right? She doesn't do a lot of, I mean, you can see it in her work. She's not like just taking any acting job that's available to her. She'll go through phases where she doesn't take any work because she wants to work on quality projects. She wants to work on projects that have meaning for her. And same, and also she's raising a family, right? She's raising
Mm-hmm.
these
Three
amazing
kids.
kids
Yeah.
by her, well, without
Kind of by
without
herself.
single mom,
Yeah.
basically,
Mm-hmm.
and doing an incredible job. Um, so how did we get in touch? I mean, that's the magic of this industry, and it's also the magic of, one of the inspirations for like why I thought, man, I have to start Naturally San Diego. So we had an advisor that was introduced to us early on in our development of Once Upon a Farm, who used to work at Suja. So so Cassandra actually used Suja's HPP machines to make her original pouches and run her tests. So she had a good relationship with Jeff Church when he was CEO there.
Yeah, I know Jeff. Yeah, great guy.
Great guy, great guy.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so Jeff introduced us to another great guy named Greg Fleischman. Greg used to live in San Diego. He lives in LA now, but he is the one who actually was able to make that link. He had a brand that he was building with another celebrity, and her business manager was also Jennifer Garner's business manager, or still is Jennifer Garner's business manager slash best friend. And I didn't know this at the time, but Jennifer was looking for years. And again, I said she's picky. About 12 years she's been looking for a brand to partner with in some meaningful way. And she said, she had certain criteria. Her biggest criteria was the brand has to do something to help children. That was
Wow.
like number one.
Mm-hmm.
So she talked to like kids clothing brands and different types of companies. Nothing really clicked. And Nicole, her business manager, asked us to send her some pouches to try. We, you know, Cassandra and I working we had an office in Kearney Mesa. We like, okay, sure, let's send Jennifer Garner some pouches. Why not? We
Yeah, what
were
have you got to
literally, I mean,
lose? Yeah.
yeah, this was like our basically still in our first year of like actual business, like selling product in market, like so new. So we sent her product and we got word that she liked the product and she wanted to meet us. So, okay, we'll drive up to LA to meet Jennifer Garner. We had a great meeting with her. Um, in that meeting, I had a little sort of presentation I brought just to have something with me about the company. And I had as I always have, is like this advisor slide, right? Very typical in these kinds of pitch decks. And she noticed that one of our advisors, who actually was also an investor, was this guy, John Foraker. So John Foraker at the time was running Annie's Organic,
Oh, yeah.
which Annie's, if you know that story, is an amazing story. He bought the brand from Annie in the 90s. It was like a $6 million brand and built it up to a $250 million brand and then took it public and then sold it to General Mills after that. So it was like an insane
Amazing story.
trajectory.
Yeah.
and a great brand. I mean, it's still, you go to any grocery store today, you'll see Annie's mac and cheese, you'll see Annie's
Hmm.
cheddar bunnies. I mean, all they have
I
products
bought it for
everywhere.
my kids when they were growing up. Yeah, absolutely.
So Jen did too, right? So she saw John Fork, or she saw Annie. She's like, "Oh my God, I buy cheddar bunnies. I buy these products for my kids. I, I love this brand." Like she knew that this was a because Annie's has always been a brand with a very strong emphasis on mission, right? And like being very
Organic and
not
pure.
just
Yeah,
organic, but also like even in the packaging, and yeah, some, and using better ingredients. I wouldn't say they're perfect, but definitely like not doing
better
what,
for you. Yeah.
yeah, not doing what a lot of other companies do in terms of ingredients, and keeping away from harmful stuff. So she said, I bought a lot of cheddar bunnies for my kids. I want to meet John Foraker, because if I'm really going to step into this world, I want to meet like the master, right? Like this guy's built one of the biggest organic brands in the world, basically. So I called John and I said, John, can you fly down to LA to meet Jennifer Garner? And fortunately, he was a big Alias fan. So he flew down to LA to meet her. And in that meeting, Jen said, and I was not there, but Jen asked John, she said, Hey, John, it was supposed to be 30 minutes. John's flight was delayed. He showed up 30 minutes late, ended up being a 3-hour meeting. And it wasn't about business, right? It was all about mission. And it was about Jen's devotion to save the children, which has been a
Her
big
number
part of her
one.
life,
Yeah.
a big part of her work, and John's sort of also like how he thinks about how a food company can do good for the world, right? And help kids, especially. So Jen fell in love with John's vision for what a food company could be. And she said, John, I really love what these entrepreneurs are building, but they don't have your experience. Like I would love to build this with you involved. If I were to go into this company, would you be willing to jump in with me? And John thought about it for maybe 3 seconds. And he looked at Jen and he said, you know what? If you're
Sure.
in, I'm in. And the crazy thing at the time was, I mean, John, he was like already at the top of the mountain. Like he's like post
With Annie's.
acquisition,
Yeah.
CEO of Annie's, not much he has to do there. He's getting recruited to all kinds of, you can imagine the kind of jobs
Boards and
he's getting
stuff. Yeah.
recruited for, everything. For him to take a bet on this like tiny little company in San Diego with Jen Garner was like a huge, it took him 3 seconds to decide. But from my perspective, I'm like, man, like that's a huge, I get it. Jennifer Garner's a big name, but like we had the company was sub $1 million.
Wow.
So anyway, he looked at her and he said, if you're in, I'm in. And she said, well, if you're in, I'm in. And later I found out that in Hollywood, when someone says, if you're in, I'm in, they don't usually mean it. But
Thank goodness you
but
didn't know that at the time, right?
but Jennifer Garner's true to her word. That's again, that's makes her unique. And obviously John's true to his word, right? So John called myself and my co-founder Cassandra up, and we had to decide: are we in with this plan where they would join as co-founders? John would become CEO, I would become president, Cassandra would become chief innovation officer, Jen would be chief brand officer. So a much bigger relationship and involvement of Jen, more than an influencer relationship, an actual co-founder relationship. And we said, yes, we'll do it.
Amazing.
So we ended up going down that path. And I have to say, of course, initially I was worried and I wasn't sure how involved Jennifer would become. You sign a contract and it says, here are the obligations that, because it's all lawyers and, whatnot
Hmm.
that draft these things. And there was like a list of obligations, and oh, she'll speak at Expo West here and there, and she'll do certain things. Jen over delivered, and to this day over delivers on. I mean, you could throw that contract in the trash, because Jen was like, from day one, she was like, put me in, coach,
Brilliant.
tell me what I can do. As long as she's not with her kids doing something or filming or doing, promoting Save the Children work, She is all in on Once Upon a Farm and has been from the day we signed that contract. So that's just her nature. And when she agrees to, and like I said, she's very picky, because when she agrees to do something, she's all in on it, and it's got to be all in or nothing for her, which I love. I love that attitude. That's the way you got to be if you're going to grow a
If you're good,
business, right? It's like,
exactly, yeah.
that's
And that's
life.
what
If
most
you're
people don't know, right? Being an entrepreneur is you can't be half in and think it's going to
no,
succeed. Yeah.
no, you can't. And and you see so many brands that partner with celebrities in different ways. People will post with like certain products, for a billboard or something, and they think, oh, I can ride on my fame to like boost the profile of this brand, and that'll be enough, right? It doesn't work that way. That will help, like give you a boost, but you have to be consistent, and you have to be there, and you
With
have
the
to be
energy
with the
behind
team.
it. Yep.
Like Jen shows up to meetings to this day every week. She shows up to team meetings, obviously virtual, but she'll be there. She's listening, she's paying attention, she's always taking notes. She shows up to retailer meetings at Target and Kroger. She'll speak at events, right? Like Expo West and all, she'll do that sort of thing. And the coolest thing, in my opinion, is whenever the company does a retreat, they do an annual retreat, she shows up. So like the whole company, right? She's there with them, they're
That's
hanging
huge.
out, right? And everyone's just like, wow, like this is so cool. And if you talk to Jen today, like I remember, early on, she didn't know any of the terminology of the industry, right? But you talk to her today, man, she knows her
She's
stuff.
on it. Yeah.
She is on it.
So how was it for you and Cassandra that was obviously your baby. You guys started this from scratch and all of a sudden to sort of have to step away and let let Jennifer and
Sure. Yeah,
what's
it
his
was
take
tough.
over. That must have
John
been
Foraker, yeah.
John Forgate. That must have been a
Yeah.
little bit tough
Yeah, yeah,
because,
yeah. Yeah.
losing control a little bit, but having the faith that it's going to work out. And
Yeah,
look what
exactly.
happened.
I'll say this about John Forker. He's a good person, and he keeps his word. So from day one, he said to Cassandra and I, he's like, you're on the leadership team. You can be in any meeting you want. Like there's no closed doors for you guys. And you can be with the company for as long as you want. You will always have value here. And he meant it. And it was the case, from the day we signed that contract all the way through to my last day at the company. I never felt like I was minimized or my voice didn't matter. What I did feel over time was just like how big the company was getting. So we moved out, we had a little, like I said, we had an office in San Diego. We had a small team here. All of that got moved. We had we hired, John hired a new team in Berkeley and built an office there. But like I was flying up to Berkeley regularly. I couldn't get myself I was actually planning to move up there originally, but
It's
it
hard to
was,
leave San Diego.
yeah, I mean, the Bay Area is great, but yeah, it is hard to leave San Diego. There's something anyway that I, yeah, I'm not regretting that decision. So but I was flying up there regularly to be with the team, to just be there in person, so to show my face, especially, right? And then we had COVID, and when COVID hit and everything went remote, that really changed the game for me personally. Um, and it was during that time frame when it was like 2020. My first son was born on March 4th. So
Wow.
like a week later, there was a state of emergency. So like, you know, he he was a COVID baby, I guess you could say. But what that did, I mean, Expo West got canceled that year. There was, everything got canceled. No trade shows, no flights, no retailer meetings. I was doing a lot of that, prior.
Prior, yeah.
So with all that wiped off my desk, I ended up having a lot more free time to really think about everything that had been done and everything I wanted to do moving forward. And I came to the conclusion that, man, Once Upon a Farm is in a really good place right now. It was growing so fast. I mean, like I said, when Jennifer and John joined, we were a
It was
sub
less than a
million
million. Yeah.
company, and now in 2020 we're doing like 5 million a month, right? And like, but we saw this path to like much bigger business, right? And it was laid out. There were over 60 employees, and it was just he brought the best people in, amazing people, to operate this business and to help it grow. So I was learning so much, which I was very grateful for, but uh, I didn't have the same passion that I had earlier on when it was a smaller business, because I could see where the puck was going, and I could see how, you know, my sort of like value is in being the entrepreneur, is in being like the guy to like really put all the pieces together. And that was already being done. So I was focusing on sort of like my area that I was very excited about and like doing well with, but like it wasn't quite where I, like in my perfect world, wanted to fit in an organization. So and again, I'm learning from John every day, and I'm like, man, I want to apply this somewhere else. Like I think I could take this and
Yeah,
really
what you've
do
learned.
something
Yeah,
really cool with the right opportunity. And just like, Cassandra was looking for a co-founder and I just popped up out of the ether, for her. Um, I just put it out into the universe like, hey, if there's something else out there, like, hi. I was so one thing I did in 2020 was, I really took a lot of time to build out Naturally San Diego. So like with a lot of the time that I wasn't on flights and, could do virtual stuff, and really brought down the number of hours that I had to actually like, work. I
yeah,
was able to build Naturally San Diego with some of that time and then do some advising. And one of the sort of pings that came out of the universe was the founders of Coconut Cult reaching out to me on LinkedIn asking if I'd be open to advising them. And that's where my sort of shift began, when I started talking to those guys. Um, in between building Naturally San Diego and talking to Coconut Cult, I found like, oh my gosh, I'm way more passionate now about these two things over time, right?
yeah. Because you impacted Once Upon a Farm was lessening.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly, exactly. And I could see so much growth, and opportunity, and especially with Naturally San Diego, to like bring it here and like to actually like be physically present and see it like evolve,
that
so
was really satisfying. Yeah.
all those, yeah, both those
I have a
things.
I have a question for you. I'm a big believer in manifestation, and I think you said it a couple of times that you put it out there to the universe, and then things kind of came together. Do you have a spiritual practice that you use in order to manifest things? I think a lot of
Yeah,
entrepreneurs are, maybe even a little uh, they have things that they believe in. Is there
yeah.
anything for you that you feel like this is what's really helped me along the way and guide me my intuition and making decisions?
Sure. I mean, I've always been more intuitive. That's just been my nature since day one. And people say I march to the beat of my own drummer, which is probably true. But one thing that's sort of held constant is I have a very, uh, I've just had, a very strong spiritual side where, it's very deeply rooted in Judaism. So, I pray to God, and I pray to God, for the things that I want for my family, for the world, for you know myself, right, at times. And that's my way of putting it out there into the universe.
I love it. Do you believe in Kabbalah?
Okay, so yes, I think it's,
Yeah,
yes, I do. I don't have a practice related to Kabbalah. I'm more like, you
old
know
school.
old school, I guess. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but yes, I'm very familiar with. I'm not very familiar with it, but like, yes, because that to me is real. Yes,
Yeah, exactly. Using energy and
I believe it
intention
all.
and
Yeah,
certainty and all that. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm a big believer in all that as well. So I was curious. Thank you for sharing that. I would love to talk about San Diego naturally, or naturally San
yeah.
Diego.
Naturally, San Diego. Yeah.
Obviously, I'm in the Southern California community, and what you've put together with Naturally San Diego is pretty incredible. The community here is very strong. What is the mission of Naturally, and why did you start that?
So the mission of Naturally San Diego is to, really provide the support to the up and coming entrepreneurs in San Diego who are building the next generation of better for you natural products. And when I say natural products, it's not, only food. It's not, it can be pretty much any consumer packaged good.
Or
And what it makes
supplements.
well, yeah,
Yeah. Supplement.
absolutely. And what makes a product natural, it's or a company sort of lean into that natural space. If you are trying to improve something about your industry, whether it is ingredients, whether it is packaging, whether it is sourcing, there's all kinds of sort of ways you can fit that definition in. Um, so, Coca-Cola is not a great product for our industry, right? But Suja is an amazing product for our industry. So that's one way to think about it. Now, um, like I said earlier, I was inspired to start Naturally San Diego specifically because of my own experiences working with amazing mentors who helped guide me through the process of entrepreneurship. And it also sort of struck me as I was going through the process of building Once Upon a Farm, living here in San Diego. I got to meet a lot of really cool people also involved in the industry. And I was like so surprised that I didn't know there were all these great, like I would go to Expo West. Oh, you live in San Diego? No shit. Like you know,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
like, wait, you're here? Like, why are we not meeting more regularly? Like, why do I have to wait for one annual event
Outside
to
of San
meet
Diego.
to
Yeah.
meet these cool people, right? So how can we do it more regularly? Build an organization. So I took my cue from Naturally Boulder. So Naturally Boulder was the original chapter of this organization, and they started building out an affiliate model. So they put affiliates in the Bay Area. They did one in Chicago, and it started to spread. Austin was another one early on. So I said, let me put my hand up to lead the charge to build an affiliate in San Diego. So I had to put together a board of directors. I had to put together a core group of sponsors to build an annual budget that would meet their required minimum to be an affiliate. And it took about all of 2019. I almost gave up at one point. I almost was like, you know what, this is too much. But fortunately, I was pushed by some other people that I'd brought in to like keep going, so I didn't stop. And thank God I didn't stop. Just bringing people together once a month to talk about it and sort of bringing us closer and closer to the thing. And then like it just started happening. Like towards the end of 2019, it was like, okay, Dr. Bronner's is in for a sponsorship, and Perfect Bar's in for a sponsorship, and then it was like boom, 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 boom. All of a sudden, all these companies were like, yeah, we'll jump in with this with you, and here we are today, stronger than ever, with amazing partners, amazing board. I mean, the quality of the
Yeah.
board just keeps leveling up. And I'm just so grateful. I come to these board meetings now and I'm just like looking around the room like, how did we do this? Like, how did we bring like literally the cream of the crop across natural CPG to volunteer their time for this organization? Like, we are so fortunate to have Naturally San Diego. It is an organization that is only going to get better and better over time. If you think
Absolutely.
about what
Yeah.
we've accomplished over the last, 5 years, it's like, man,
And you had COVID in between as well, which,
yeah,
slowed
yeah,
things
yeah.
down quite a
It
bit.
did. It did.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were supposed to actually launch. We had a launch party planned for like March 26th or something. And we like in February we started selling tickets for the event, and it was going to be this big, we had a big event venue booked and everything. It was going to be our opening party. And then of course we had to cancel it and refund all those tickets. But in a way it was, it allowed us to fill a void that was greatly needed at the time. So we ended up putting on a lot of virtual events to the point where we did a virtual pitch slam that was like,
Wow.
you can still find it on YouTube if you search Naturally San Diego. I mean, incredibly well done, like edited beautifully. Like most of it was pre-done, right? So you're like, it's almost like you're watching a show followed by a live stream. And we had like over 150 people attend that
Wow.
virtual event. We did a holiday happy hour where we had like 60 people or so, maybe 65, a good number. Everyone who signed up got a delivery of, it was it yeah, it was Ballast Point. Everyone got a delivery of Ballast Point beer to their door.
For the happy hour. That's so
So
cool.
we're all on Zoom with our, yeah, and then we had the Ballast Point head brewer kind of guiding us through a tasting of the beers, and then we broke up into like smaller groups to like just get to know each other. So like how cool is that? Like we
Yeah.
actually we came online at the kind of the right time for what was going on in the broader
People
context of the
needed that
world.
sense of community, and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, because there were no trade shows, not everything, right? So where are you gonna go to have that? And there we were.
Amazing. Yeah, I've been to a number of your events. I love it. I'm a member as well. And I tell you, the caliber of people that come to
Yeah.
the Naturally San Diego events are amazing. And the latest pitch slam that I went to was so fun. And the presentations just keep getting better and the products keep getting better and better. So I think you're really inspiring people to be great entrepreneurs, and the support around that is really incredible.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, we are here to stay. We want to be here for the next 30, 40, 50 years, right? And we want to keep building, doing more. And, ultimately the goal, right, is it's not just to benefit our industry, it's to benefit the whole city. We want to be seen and recognized as a hub, very strong hub for the natural products industry. We want entrepreneurs to be here to start their companies. We want big companies to come here because they see this great community that they can tap into, right? We want there to be more and more resources to grow because we know that ultimately, if you look at just the trend of like consumer preference, right? We are in a I mean, we're in one of the fastest growing industries sort of in the long run that you could be in.
exactly. And
So,
especially right now with all the changes that are being made to the food system and the healthcare system, I think this is an industry that's just going to boom. And I think with naturally too, people that are entrepreneurs and are starting small businesses on the side, I think the mentorship that Naturally San Diego provides to these people, and with someone like yourself and the experience that you've had, I think it's such a great resource for people to tap into. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what are some of your personal biohacks? Obviously, you were very high energy, very motivated, driven, passionate entrepreneur. What are some of the things that you do on a daily basis to keep yourself sharp and keep yourself motivated?
Yeah. Great question. So I have a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old. So, I need as many hacks as I can get right now. Yeah. So I found that, for my fitness, at this point in my life, I just kind of want to put it on autopilot. So, there's a gym, you can actually, it's in San Diego. There's multiple locations. There's a great gym called Renegade. They run these like little gyms. You go in and it's like a 50-minute session. You're in and out. You can go at 5 a.m. You can go at 6 a.m. I usually go at 6 a.m., one and done. And it takes you through cardio, strength, whole body, everything. I go 5 days a week. So that's like how I start my day. And
Religious,
that's
yeah.
really, yeah, that's really important. If I don't do that,
I'm the
I'm
same.
I'm a slump. So after that, I have to have protein. So my go-to brand is Truvani. I really love her protein powder. I think that she's, everything she makes is really very mindfully crafted to like work with your body. And there's a lot of ingredients and a lot of protein powders that frankly make me feel like shit. I don't want to get into it right now, but it's one of the reasons why coconut cult is also, it's the same thing. It's like you find a lot of ingredients in food that just don't work with your body, and they're in there because they help create a certain texture or a certain flavor, but they're not like real whole food ingredients. So the more of that stuff I eat as I get older, the worse it makes me feel. So, staying away from that stuff. A lot of mushrooms, not the not the spiritual journey kind, but I'm really into, just
Lion's mane.
chaga and lion's mane, and yeah, exactly. I buy bulk, so I buy like bulk lion's mane. I'll put a couple scoops in with my Chuvani. I've been hitting the colostrum
What do you
lately.
get from lion's mane? Like what
It's
do
a
you feel
mental
like the
boost.
mental
It's a
boost?
mental
Okay.
boost. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
think so. I mean, I also drink black coffee, so it's like protein shake,
Combination.
black coffee, yeah, with the lion's mane, with the colostrum, I'm like good to go. Yeah.
What else? What
Uh,
about just
what
routine,
else?
other routine? Yeah.
Um, so other than that, it's you know, grinding, like I listen to usually I usually listen to music when I work. So I usually listen to like focused music because I'm a little bit on the ADHD sort of spectrum. So I need something in the background just to like keep me
Yeah.
focused on my Excel spreadsheets or whatever I'm working on. And then, I try to finish all my work in time to go pick up my son from school, which is sometimes difficult, but I usually can do it. So my ideal situation is I'm like picking my son up and then I'm like fully present with him until dinner time, and that's because my daughter's one. She doesn't need me as much, but my son, I feel like with him being 5 right now,
Quality
like
time.
it's
Yeah.
it's so important. So yeah, so that's like a huge priority to me, is like I need those like 3 or 4 hours just me and him hanging out, playing sports, whatever. So we do that, and that also keeps me really sane and healthy too.
And do you make time for meditation or visualization? It's part of the
Yeah,
manifestation process.
yeah. So I have I have some sort of like, I guess you could call it quiet time, um, where we'll either as a family, like we do like Shabbat dinner every Friday night. We say all the prayers together, and we light the candles and we do the challah. But other than that, I have my own time. So usually before I go to Renegade, because like if I have to be at Renegade by 6, I'm waking up at 5. It's again like I go to bed around the same time as my son these days, around 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I'm up early anyway. So yeah, that's my time, right? That like 5 to sort of
The quiet time,
5:45 before I go
mental
and work
centering.
out.
Yeah.
Exactly. I really think about, what do I want to get from this day? What do I want to get from this week? What do I want to get from this, even year, or at least
So vision, really
right
be clear
now?
on
It's
what you
like,
would
what do I
intentionally
want to get through
create.
the summer? Actually, is
Y-
pretty much as far as I'm willing to go right now, because uh, just trying to get through the summer, right? But yeah, it's a process because you know, there's like situational shifts that happen throughout your life where new doors open up, right? So you're never really able to know. Like, I couldn't tell you where I'm going to be in a year. I can think about it, but something's going to happen 3 months from now that's going to change what that looks like. And it's the same thing for my company, right? So I really try to think more about, like, I'd say a 3-month time frame, and what I want to
to
occur, or what I
accomplish.
want to
Yeah.
bring into my life, or what I'd like to see. Um, for the world, especially right now, I'm thinking about the world a lot. Thinking about what's going on in, all over the world, because there's just so much. Um, there's just a lot of things that I think um, could be better.
Yeah.
So we have to just listen. We have to pay attention. We have to be mindful about our place in the world and what we can bring to the table, but also just what other people are going through. And again, as a Jew, it's like, I obviously also think about that element too a lot. And I I pray for Israel. I pray for my people, and it's a tough time we're
It's a
going through
tough
right now.
time.
So
Yeah. And I think balancing what you can control and what you can't control, and trying to influence as much as you can in your sphere, and then putting good energy out there for what you can control, and hopefully that'll make a difference as well.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's been such a pleasure getting to know you, Ari. What an inspirational story, and amazing what you've accomplished. I am very grateful that you put together Naturally San Diego. It's such a great addition to the Southern California market, and for anyone that's interested in knowing more about it, San Diego, or naturallysandiego.org, right, is the website. And if someone wants to
Yes.
get to know you or
Yeah.
learn more about coconut culture once upon a farm, what's the best way for them to reach you?
You can email me, president@naturallysandiego.org
The
comes right
best
to,
email.
it literally goes to the window behind this window that I'm looking at right now. So I'll see that email pretty quick.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. And I'd love to have another session just on coconut cult, because I think we
Oh yeah, we didn't really get to
didn't
that.
really get to touch on that, but that'll be another episode if you're
That'll be a
interested.
fun one. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
No
it.
problem. Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning into Leading for Wellness. This podcast is powered by Kalon Executive Search. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform. And to learn more about our services, you can visit us at kalonstaffing.com or follow us on Instagram @kalonstaffing.